I'm here in Vienna, Virginia. Vienna, Virginia, the Motel 6. I'm learning more things about reality. Time did not stop at Isaiah. The Industrial Revolution really happened. Europeans took over the world. Europeans came into existence, then they took over the world, then they did the Industrial Revolution also around the same time, which came from the Scientific Revolution, which came from the Enlightenment and the Renaissance. Well, here we are now. This is room 428, I think. It's at the end of the hallway. Reality is real. There's 190 countries in the world almost. Reality is real. Reality is real. Computers exist. Reality is real. Reality is real. Reality is real. I did not answer the universe. I don't think time stopped at Isaiah or any other time period before or after that. Humans are apes. Time didn't stop at Isaiah, but parallel universes probably exist. And electricity exists, as we can see outside this window right now. And reality is real. Since reality is real, that means I really called up Jill Price and talked to her before I called up Brad Williams. The two people with highly superior autobiographical memory, HSAM. And reality is real. The ancient Greeks and Romans probably existed, just like lots of other ancient civilizations. Reality is real. Reality is real. Reality is real. It's real. It's real. Unless other planets don't exist. I mean, any planet outside of this, planet we supposedly live on, they might not exist. Other galaxies might not exist. Even we might not be in a galaxy after all. And everything's fine. The Bible was never written. It doesn't exist. Cavemen never existed, and also clouds don't exist, even though we see them outside this window right here. The only thing that exists are oceans. They surround islands, but the islands don't really exist. So, small islands, and they don't really exist. Of all the people I went to high school with, all of the girls, if you take them together, I like hanging out with girls. Girls might exist, but they might not. Reach for the stars, even during the daytime. When it rains, it doesn't affect the oceans any given way, because the oceans are the only thing that exists. Oceans are the only thing that exist. They're never frozen. The whole world is run by a machine that looks like it was built in the 1920s. It's low tech. It's rusty looking. My mind overcame the machine. My mind is made out of that worm food material I talked about 11 years ago. In 2011. Airplanes don't exist, and they don't have rubber tires or anything like that. None of that exists. The only army that ever existed had maybe 200 people in it. Give me enough swords, and I can block out a single ray from the sun, or maybe 10 rays, or maybe 18, or maybe 14, or maybe 19, but probably not 25. The Matrix is made out of glass. So the Matrix is run by a computer or a machine that looks like it was built in the 1920s, which is rusty and small, sort of like a small box, like an old air conditioner from the 1920s, even though they didn't really have air conditioners then, I don't think. But and within that matrix, my mind overcame it, but my mind is made out of the worm food that I mentioned in a document I typed up in 2011. And there's a sheet of glass, one that's above the machine and one that's below it. And oceans are the only thing that exists besides my mind within this simulation, which is run inside this 1920s looking rusted metal box computer thing, whatever. It's probably run on steam or coal or something like that. lightning can possibly flicker out of either of those two sheets of glass. And if it does, it can't hurt the machine. There's only a 1 in 100 trillion chance of it hurting the machine. So it's possible, but it's unlikely. Extraterrestrials are just flashes of us from the past. Our memories flashing back. The next big wave is coming in 40 days, which I did not take from the Bible. The Bible doesn't exist. It was never written. I like the window better when I make the light sort of blinding like that. It's not blinding, it's just, you know, overly shining in the camera lens. So there's an army of 200 soldiers that existed, and oceans exist, and my mind overcame the simulation. So oceans exist, and that army of 200 existed at some point within that old 1920s box with the two sheets of glass, one above and one below. Bowling alleys are part of a circular highway. Maybe it's one of the circular highways that creates a halo, like I mentioned in one of my previous videos in this series. All is fine. Give me 5 oceans and I win. Also, the room that the whole reality setup is in that I described earlier. The metal computerish box that looks like it's 1920s with the sheet of glass above and below, and sometimes electricity flickers out that I refer to as lightning of the two sheets of glass, one above, one below, sort of. All of that floats on its own, but maybe there's 2 oceans on either end of it, but the oceans are standing up straight from the perspective of the sheets of glass with the box in the middle. And the box rests on the lower sheet of glass, and the other sheet of glass is above it, not too far above it. There's 2 oceans standing up from the perspective of all this. I'm going to have to find the sun at some point in the next 3 months. The sun meaning whatever sun is inside this setup of reality that I've described already, with the 2 sheets of glass and the box resting on the lower glass, and the 2 oceans that appear to be standing up on either side of it. I'll have to find the sun at some point. Every war in the world is non-existent unless it was waged by those 200 soldiers that are all on one army. So I don't see how there could be much of a war unless they were fighting programs. I'll find the sun, and in this reality of what I've described, run out the clock, then the freezing will stop, and we can take to the oceans in a ship. And then the ship has a mast that gets struck by electrical lightning of some kind, and we can time travel and find the sky. We can find the sky then and bring it all back.